So Alex, the news today is that obviously the Prime Minister Theresa May is departing on the 7th of June following a week of drama in Parliament. So has she essentially been kicked out?
It comes as no great surprise then to see Theresa May stand down. I thought she might last it a little longer and actually see another attempt at reading a withdrawal agreement, but yes, in essence she's been kicked out. It does appear that she is now bowed to pressure from her own backbench and is now vacating the throne, as it were.
So we're expecting a Tory Party leadership. What could this do to the Brexit process?
Well, of course, the race is on, and the runaway frontrunner, of course, is Boris Johnson, who is the clear favourite amongst the Tory Party membership, if the polls are to be believed. Boris, of course, has, with some swagger, talked about no deal being better than a bad deal. Do we really expect to see ourselves in a few months facing the prospect of a no-deal Prime Minister? I don't think so. I think Boris, of course, is notoriously famous for his U-turns, having penned pieces supporting both Remain and Leave in the lead-up to the 2016 referendum, of course. So it would not surprise me to see him do yet another U-turn if confronted especially with a pro-Remain Parliament that could frustrate any ambitions in that regard. We could well find ourselves in October, which I think is the most likely outcome, of having to go back to the EU and ask for yet another extension to Article 50, even with a Boris as Prime Minister.
So with all these changes taking place, can we still expect to leave the EU this year, or will there be another extension?
No, just to reiterate what I stated there, I think given the fact that we are now entering a summer parliamentary recess coming up, and then of course in September we have the party conference season where we can expect a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing, playing to the gallery if you like. I think there is simply no real time left for Parliament and government to do much this side of October. We're only looking at about 15 parliamentary sitting days in October itself. That really does limit the room for manoeuvre for a government of any Brexit persuasion to do much without asking for another extension to Article 50. So my educated guess, and there's always an element of mystic meg to this of course, is that come the end of the year we will still be in the EU.
So a new Tory leader within the next couple of months then. So who are those who stand a good chance?
Boris Johnson is clearly the runaway favourite and the darling with Tory Party members, so I think it's no great surprise to suggest that the most likely outcome is that he will be the next Prime Minister of a Conservative disposition. On the Remainer side, of course, of the Tory Party, there are people like Amber Rudd and Rory Stewart who may well throw their hat into the ring, but given the clear bent of the membership towards a Brexiteer leader, the favourites, I think, if you exclude the obvious person in the form of Bojo, would be others such as Dominic Raab, and of course let us not forget Michael Gove as Environment Secretary, who has played something of a political blinder in that he's not shown his hand in that regard too obviously in terms of his time in Cabinet. But as a good political operator, we might yet see movement on his part.
So if Theresa May didn't manage to get a Brexit deal through Parliament, what difference could a new Prime Minister make?
Well, let us be absolutely clear in this regard, Beth. The EU are not going to budge in terms of their stated position on the withdrawal agreement. No Tory party leader, no different Prime Minister is going to change that outcome. The British political class have been somewhat delusional, particularly on the Conservative side, in terms of their denial of this basic reality. A new leader will not make a difference. They may talk a lot of bravado about wanting a hard Brexit or a no deal, but when push comes to shove, they will be confronted with the same structural constraints. The only thing that could change that is if such a person was able to secure an election and get a public mandate to deliver on this. I don't think that's likely if current polls are to be believed, very finely divided across the country, but that is the only setup I could see the UK choosing to leave the EU with no deal or otherwise a very hard form of Brexit. EU leaders have been abundantly clear in this regard that the only withdrawal agreement on offer is the one that the two sides have already negotiated. There will be no changes to the withdrawal agreement that is on offer, so whoever becomes Conservative Party leader will still have to contend with the fact that the Irish backstop will remain in place if the UK wishes to secure any agreement on leaving the EU. Even if we leave the EU and going forward only try to pursue a limited Canada-style free trade agreement, the EU have made it abundantly clear, as Michel Barnier has pointed out, that the Northern Ireland backstop would still apply in this situation. Any form of future economic agreement with the EU will be contingent on having a Northern Ireland backstop. That is not going to change.